Hello, my name is Dean Contover. This is the Current Buzz. Thanks for watching today. Today we have Bob Cory. He's a stained glass artist, and he's going to talk about his artwork. He's been doing it for 35 years. He goes from different states, am I correct? And you go to different states and sell your artwork. I'm going to show some stained glass that he's done before we start the show. And this is the stained glass. It's a little heavy.
Yeah.
But this is a stained glass that he does.
And this one is something that's designed, inspired by Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect.
Oh, I see.
And I've wanted to do something similar to this for years and just never made the time. And finally this past year I just said, I'm going to take 2 or 3 weeks from doing anything else and get some Frank Lloyd Wright pieces done, and that's what it is.
Good, that looks good. I see the centerpiece right here. That's nice.
That's a joy.
It weighs a little bit. Are these things waterproof when you put them up, or are they just for design?
No.
Okay. But they have to be in churches and so forth.
Yeah, and the church windows are built using a different construction method.
I see. I see. Here's another piece.
These are called rondelles, which is a French word for round thing. And
does it go this way or
either way?
Either way.
I do that so you pick which way it works best in your house.
I see. I see. And what do these go for roughly? I mean, give me a ballpark figure.
I think that one's about $175.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
The first one you brought up was would be $400.
Okay, roughly. All right. It looks nice. So we have another one to show. After just handling with kid gloves.
Yeah. Upside down.
Upside down.
Irises.
Irises.
Yeah.
All right. And you can hang this in front of a window.
Yeah.
You've got hangers that you've soldered on. I mean, hooks or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
And about the same price?
Yeah, I think so. $175, something like that.
That's good. And
irises are always popular.
Yeah, irises are popular. So if you, can they call you, Bob? Is it in regards if somebody wants stained glass done? Did you want to give me a phone number or?
Yeah, sure. Just right now, 978 through.
Wait, let me write this down before I forget. 978
314
314
8577.
8577. So if somebody comes with a picture or design, you'll do it for them?
Hopefully. I mean, sometimes I have to say no for technical reasons.
Okay.
And sometimes people have an idea of what they want and have no idea of what it will cost. And their concept of cost is, 29 cents.
No. This is hand worked.
But there's, it's an education process.
Yeah, definitely. Glass has been around since the Egyptians, right? Historically, and you've done it for 35 years, so you don't go that far back, do you, to the Egyptians? No. Did they use colored glass or was just glass?
When they started, it was just, almost like whatever color came out, but it was usually just, a clear or a slightly earthy tone thing, because they didn't have the technology to know the chemistry that it takes to do all the colors and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't realize, I was looking online, I didn't realize there's a lot of chemistry involved in colored glass. And that could be dangerous for somebody working with stained glass. And lead, right?
Yeah. And you learn if you're going to play with this stuff or work with it, you learn what you have to do to take care of yourself.
Okay.
And I've never been seriously cut. I've never been seriously burned. I don't think I've gotten poisoned.
Okay.
I monitor that stuff.
So you take lead tests every year? That's what you were telling me earlier.
Yeah.
Well, I don't blame you.
Yeah. No, because, I mean, if you do it every year, if my lead level goes up a little bit, I can take care of that. If you don't test it for 5 or 10 years and you get lead level up, you will go through some very nasty medications to put your pipes cleaned out, so you don't do it.
Yeah, good point. So when you tell a physician that you want a lead test, what do they tell you?
Well, they usually say we don't test, adults, we test kids. They're worried about lead paint poisoning, and
Right.
in some of the old houses around here and any place
Right.
else, there's lead paint, and people are worried about that. But this is another section of, medicine that they need to do the same thing.
Speaking of old houses, a lot of old houses in Lowell have stained glass windows, especially near the stairwell of the home. Those are valuable, aren't they?
Depends. I mean, some of them are. There probably aren't a lot of them, other than maybe up in the Belvedere or someplace like that, where the really high class stuff is. But it was a popular addition on when they were building lots of houses, turn of the last century, to put a stained glass in, and companies were banging them out. You could order stained glass windows from Sears.
No kidding. No kidding. So it wasn't hand done; it was machine done at times.
Well, probably not, but just mass produced. They could cut, 100 of the same shape of glass, and that's a lot easier, just repetition than
No, I understand.
cutting onesies.
What about shades for your light? Are they hand cut or are they also manufactured? Or could be both?
Yeah, the old ones were all
The
handmade.
Tiffany lamps they talk about.
Yeah, now the Home Shopping Network sells
You're kidding me.
stained glass lampshades, and they're made in China. And the Chinese are getting pretty good, but they're using laser water jet glass cutters. They can digitize shapes and put 6 sheets of glass on top of each other and use these lasers to cut through 6 sheets at once.
No kidding. Wow.
And it's all perfectly cut.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to talk about what you do in your job. You go all over the country and sell stained glass. You don't have a studio locally or anything like that?
My studio's in my home,
In your home, okay.
by choice.
Right.
When I made the break to do this full time, I looked at storefront. And I looked at a bunch of them and looked at the numbers that are associated with that, and I couldn't find a way to, how much product would I have to push out the door to pay the rent.
To sell.
And I couldn't find a way to work it, so best business decision I ever made was to work out of the house.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Let's show me how you
Okay.
start your
Okay.
thing. We have about
Right.
15 minutes, and maybe we could get a little close up how you handle it.
All right, well, let's just say this is a pattern of something that I want to make.
Okay.
And these are what they call pattern shears, and I will.
While you're cutting that, I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
A lot of the churches in Europe have stained glass. In this country, basically, it was a story to be told when the masses came into church because they were uneducated, so
Right.
they saw the Bible more or less on the stained glass. Is
Absolutely.
that correct? Is that my understanding?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
Now, just cutting this out, what I've done, this pair of scissors has 3 blades,
Huh.
and it will take out a little skinny piece of paper, and what that is when I cut the rest of the pieces out, having that little extra piece taken out means that when you go to assemble it, everything will be exactly the same size as the
I
pieces
see.
on the piece of paper.
I see.
So, and if you're making church windows, the little strip that comes out is a little bigger because the lead is thicker than what I use.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're doing a church window, what do? Put it on a table and
Yeah.
just piece it together like you're doing now? And is that my understanding? Or
Yeah, you. Momentito.
All right. If you want to see some of Bob's work, I'm going to give you his phone number while he's doing this.
Okay.
It's 978-314-8577.
Correct.
Do you get a lot of orders during Christmas time, et cetera? Or?
Well, yeah, people come in and want Christmas stuff, but they call me like, the 10th of December and want custom work done for Christmas, and
How long does it take you to do a piece like we
depends.
showed earlier?
It depends on how big it is and how complex it is, and everything. I mean, and how many other orders I have in line.
I see.
I mean, sometimes I'm backed up 90 days.
Wow. Good for you. Good for you.
But that's what I need next. After you've cut the pattern piece out, you attach it to the glass, and this is a glass cutter. And I usually just cut off a little piece of it
Okay.
so that it's easier to work with that way.
Okay.
And if I make a mistake, I don't ruin the whole thing.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. This will not be as good as I usually am because
All right, that's fine.
I normally stand up working at a table.
Oh, do you?
But
So you use the pliers to break off the excess glass, is that it? Mm-hmm. It breaks smoothly, no problem.
you know, this usually breaks smoothly. It's not, so that's all right. But let me just get this out so I don't get...
Be careful with those shards,
Yes,
you know.
get them out. But let's assume that instead of that, I'm going to use these. These are pieces of beveled glass. They've got a texture on them, which is visually more interesting. And the next
Now bevel is a little more expensive, I would presume.
yeah, depending on the bevels. You know, these straight line bevels are pretty reasonable price-wise.
I see. Now, where do you get your glass? I mean, can you,
The,
at the local store, I know.
Not a chance. I use 2 or 3 different suppliers around the country. It depends on who's got what I need when I need it and how
I
much
see.
they're asking. American glass is manufactured in Portland, Oregon, Eastern Washington State, West Virginia, Georgia, and California.
I see.
And then some of the glass that I use comes in from France and Germany and England. But the next part is this is an adhesive back copper foil, and each piece of glass. This method of assembling things was invented by Louis Comfort Tiffany. You might have heard of him.
I've heard of them.
But prior to Tiffany coming up with this, it was done with the lead that the church windows are done, and that doesn't let you get as much detail. So when Tiffany was doing this, he was
So basically, Tiffany was a glass cutter. Is that what you're telling me?
well, he was
A stain?
he had schleppers. He had people that did all the work.
Oh, okay.
He was the designer.
I see. I see.
He came up with his technique and allowed for smaller pieces. That's why he could make his Tiffany lampshades.
I see.
Because you didn't have to fit heavy lead in between each piece. You'll see let me just.
When you make a piece, let's say for a church, it has to be, the weight has to be considered, right? Mm-hmm. And the glass, the color, and you have to make sure it's waterproof.
Yeah, if it's church window, it's done with the lead in between the pieces, and once you've got the lead all in and soldered, then you go around the edge of every piece of glass with putty. And fill that in, and that way it won't leak.
I see.
Probably for 75 years. And, church windows need to be completely taken out and rebuilt about once every 125 years.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
Because the lead that's in there gets oxidized from the weather.
I see.
And just like an piece of iron rusting, lead oxidizes. It's the same process.
Who would tell, let's say there's a church out there that has stained glass and they don't know how long it's been up. Who would they contact to look at that?
I think the best source for that is an outfit called the SGAA, which is the Stained Glass Association of America, and their home office out in, I think, Kansas City. But
I see.
any of the people that are members of the SGAA are highly qualified stained glass people.
All right.
Some of them specialize in new work, some of them specialize in repairing and rebuilding. That's a whole separate art form. I don't do that.
Right. Right.
Because it's.
But it's good to know in regards to people out there just wondering in their church how long that stained glass has been up there.
Yeah, churches get freaked out when they find out how much it's going to cost.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Maybe they should start a fund now for down the road.
You don't know how many churches I've told that to. I mean, I'll go out and talk to local churches,
Right.
someone in Lowell or Lawrence or Billerica or whatever.
Right.
Pastor wanted me to come out and look at the church or whatever. I would go out and look just as a courtesy. I wouldn't do the work, but I can
Right.
give them an idea of what they need to do.
Right.
And sometimes they can do a relatively short-term fix that'll keep the church going for 25 years.
Right.
And sometimes it's start raising money right now. You've got to start right now, or else it's going to fall down.
Wow, that's interesting.
Well, it's sad because a lot of the churches in this area have gorgeous stained glass.
No, I know.
And the churches were all built with immigrant money. Italians, Irish,
Right.
whatever would come into
Yeah,
town,
whatever, yeah.
work in the mills, and they'd give a 10% of whatever their paycheck to the church every week.
So you're telling me that immigrant families have been here over 100 years, that people should start looking at the stained glass in regards to their church.
And what's
Be
sad,
concerned.
and what's sad is though that by the time you get to the second or third generation, they've moved out of downtown.
Yeah, that's
So
a
you've
good
got
point.
these gorgeous churches that need the work, and there aren't a lot of parishioners still
To
around
sustain it.
to sustain it. And some of them are getting converted into other things, but still, it's
Right.
painful to see.
We got 8 minutes to go, so
Okay.
I mean, if you want to
Okay.
start.
Well, I'm not going to be able to do everything that
Okay.
I planned on doing, but
All right.
that's okay.
We might have to have you on another show.
Okay, that's easy.
Now, what is this white thing?
This is flux, which is
Flux.
a very mild acid, and you have to put that on all the copper foil because that's what will allow.
I see.
This is solder.
So should you work with gloves with this type of thing, with this acid, or?
I don't.
Okay, you don't. All right.
I don't.
And that's a heating iron,
This
right?
is a soldering iron, and
Let me move this
okay.
acid here.
And the solder just goes on, and let's see if I can just quickly grab one more of these and get it. I can actually do something.
So once you do that, what do? You just merge those together, or
Yep.
or connect them? I see.
I'm gonna do the real quick one that's just due to
Okay.
time limitations. But
Yeah. That's interesting about these churches that you go out to the different churches and you give them advice in regards to.
I mean, I'm not a professional restoration
Right. No.
person, but I can give them an idea what's necessary, and I can also refer them to some studios that I know. Boston's got a couple of
Oh, is that right?
very good restoration studios.
I see.
But if I was going to put these two pieces together for something, the first thing I would do is take a little drop of solder, just tack it in place so it doesn't slip and slide anywhere. And then when I
How long does that take to
harden,
harden it? That's a good
it's
word.
done, but it's still hot, so I'm going to have to wait a minute. But just, now there's a seam, and I would actually also do the same thing on the back side.
I see.
That makes it structurally much more sound. What's nice about this method is that it's fairly lightweight overall.
I see.
And, if you're working with lead, it's just heavier. But, in a church, you're going to have reinforcing bars and all. You need to be part artist and part, mechanical engineer
Right.
to do.
Some churches I've noticed now, I don't remember where, but I saw plexiglass in front of the stain outside. Mm-hmm. So
And that's to protect them. from the what I refer to as wind, rain, and flying baseballs.
People still play baseball?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But putting some protective glazing on the outside of the windows will mean that they oxidize more slowly, so they will stay together longer.
I see.
And sometimes that will, if they're structurally weak, you can put Plexi or Lexan over them, and it might give you, 10 years, and during those 10 years you can raise the money to really do the repairs that you need to.
Yeah.
And that's just sometimes the cold, hard reality of
Right.
churches. Everybody thinks of going to church, and isn't it gorgeous? And few people, except the deacons or the vestry or whoever it is, thinks of, yeah, it's gorgeous, and how many $1,000s do we need?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I like the idea, Bob, in regard to you saying that people should start making a collection for that early in regards to stained glass, and they don't see it that way.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
So.
This is, you saw one of these in one of the
Yeah,
panels
right.
that Dean pulled up, and these are called rondelles, and this is the way glass was, one of the ways that most glass was originally made.
Oh, is that
You
right?
take a gob
Circular?
of glass on a pipe, the tip of a pipe, and you start spinning it, and centrifugal force forces it out to circle. And when it's about the right size, you take the pipe off and let it cool, and you push this, while it's warm, you push it against the steel plate to flatten it. And then in the old days, they would take this, and to make it fit into a square opening for a window, they would use a cutter and cut the outside part off and just use the square in the middle.
Right. Let me ask you this question. They used to blow glass, right? When did that stop, and did they go to commercial?
Blowing glass probably existed before any of the sheet glass.
I'm sure.
I mean, the original stained glass was blown similar to the way this little guy was built,
Right.
except it was much bigger
Let me see that.
scale. Sure.
Yeah. This is.
It was.
And there's usually bubbles in the blown glass that you could see
Yeah.
in comparison. So you know that if you see the bubbles, you know that it was hand blown.
Well,
Is that correct?
yeah, except now they know how to fake that too.
Oh, they know how to fake it? Yeah, I see
but
a
not
couple of
much. But
bubbles,
it's
yeah.
to make basically sheets of stained glass, they're working on huge scale of the size of the things they blow up. It's basically like a 5-gallon jug.
Right.
And while the glass is soft, they can cut a line down the side, and it'll open up and fall flat. And that's how they used to make sheet glass. Now sheet glass, the glass gets melted and comes down through some rollers, and the rollers will flatten it out. It starts thicker and gets thinner and thinner until it's this thick, which is 1/8 of an inch.
I just want to tell you, if anybody wants Bob's work, I have a telephone number, 978-314-8577. In regards to him looking at a church, he'll come out and see the church. He probably will charge you, but he'll be more than amendable to go out there. And I just want to say Bob is a Vietnam veteran. I've known him from another show that we did, and he's been doing stained glass for 35 years. And good luck with it, and I hope everything goes well.
Yeah, I still.
Is there anything you want to say about stained glass before the show ends?
I still like doing what I do. I could have retired a long time ago, but I still like going to work, and I can't get rich because it's labor intensive.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
It beats the heck out of working in a cube farm. I hate to say that. No
Yeah.
offense to anyone out in TV land, but
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I don't want to
Absolutely.
burn myself now.